Hi, welcome to the Deliberate Life Show, the podcast to help you put yourself in the driver's seat. I'm Sally Edwards, and this is my big sister, Dana Middleton. And in today's show, we're talking about the foundation for living a deliberate life and why it's important. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Sally. Hey, welcome. This is our first episode. We're so excited that you are here. We call this the deliberate life, so I guess we should start right by explaining what we mean by that. you
Good
know,
idea.
Good idea. Well, we look at it like this, that a deliberate life is when you are focusing intentionally on what's important to you, with engagement, with aliveness, with purpose. It's really about, for us, it's about bringing big energy to the small steps that change your life. And we are living proof of that. And that's what this podcast is all about. But, before we get into it, we have lots to talk about today. We're just going to tell you very briefly about us. Why don't you tell them who you are? Who are you?
Who am I in like 30 seconds? I'm Sally. I live in a small town in North Georgia with my family, and my background is in counseling and coaching. I have a master's in counseling, and primarily I've worked with teenagers and with parents. What about you,
Yeah, and
Dana?
I've
Yeah.
worked with creative people. I live in Los Angeles, California. I've worked with the Aligned Artist for the past decade, working with writers, directors, actors. I'm a writer myself. I write books for kids, and I think what's interesting is that we have different. We've coached for a long time, but with different communities. But somehow we decided we want to bring it all together. That we want to speak. That what we've learned will really speak to everybody.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of conversations on the phone, and so this is kind of the culmination of us deciding to work together.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're excited to be here. Let's jump right into what we're talking about today, which is, we've talked about this metaphor of being in the driver's seat of your car, and the foundation for that is figuring out, well, who is in the driver's seat, and is it the real you, or is it a fear-based, limited part of you?
And do we
Because
even know? Do we even know?
yeah,
That's what I want, to say to
yeah.
begin with. Like, when we're moving along life,
Mhm.
sometimes we're not even aware of what's driving our life, what part of us is driving our life. And that's what we really want to identify today, because once you know, you have a lot more power.
And I think a lot of times we don't know. We are, life is busy and we're on autopilot so much
Yeah.
of the time. And that's really the intention for doing this podcast, is become more deliberate about figuring out, okay, why is my life going in this direction? Who is moving it in that way? And how do I get kind of more um again in the driver's seat?
In the
So
driver's
yeah,
seat.
in the driver's seat.
Okay.
So how do you know the difference? How does that
Well,
work?
the first part is, if the real you is in the driver's seat, that's the you that is alive and connected and aligned, right? Where you bring yourself to the table,
Yeah.
right? You feel like true to yourself. You feel like what you're doing has meaning. And also what's interesting, I think, is that you have the answers for you and nobody out there does. It's really this internal living. You're coming from this, it's a secure place. It's a secure place inside, kind of a calm and clear and confident space inside. That means you're coming from the real you. And that's a really empowered place to be, because when you are coming from the authentic you, if that's the person or that's the part of you in the driver's seat, then I call that a reliable driver. And it's going to take you where you want to go, right? Or it's going to take you at least someplace good. It doesn't really matter. You're going to go to a good place. But if the limited fear-based you is driving, that's when you got some problems. Or, I've certainly experienced this, where you are having an unreliable driver that doesn't take you where you want to go, may take you down some, into some dodgy neighborhoods. And then you get there and you're like, how the heck did I get here? So it really can become very frustrating, and exhausting too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think what happens is we develop typically these fear-based, limited parts of ourselves in childhood and then along the way at different times.
Yeah.
And they are developed. Here's the thing that's really interesting. They work for us. They're not our enemy. And I think it's going to be really important as we go through this not to like, we don't need to have a fight with them or kick them out of the car altogether, but we want to understand them and understand where they come from and how they were kind of developed to help us, because as kids, we first come into the world, we are full of ourselves. We are our authentic self. we'll dance around, we'll be crazy, we'll be too much, we'll be our full self until we get the cue. Either, we're told directly, like, you're being too much, or there's something wrong with you, or why are you doing that, or you're an idiot, or whatever, literally, being told that. Or sometimes we just pick that up from our environment, and we get the idea that, oh, there's something wrong with me, I shouldn't be this way, I'm being
Yeah.
too much, I'm being I'm being stupid, or whatever it is. And we want to hide those parts of us because they feels really bad when we internalize those feelings. So, and as kids, we don't know to turn around to whoever might be either implying it or saying it and go, you know what, you're full of it, I am perfect just the way I am, and I'm going to dance right along. We don't do that. We
What,
tend to say, yeah,
wouldn't that be great? I mean, we could
yeah.
have done that, maybe kids can do it today, but when we were kids, I don't think that was going down in our household.
Yeah, I don't think it was going down. I still don't think it's going down. I think as kids, we are so prone to want to please the people in our environment, or believe the
Yeah.
people in our environment, that we develop. We believe what they say, and then we develop these coping mechanisms to make us feel better. We do things to protect, and to try to make ourselves feel better in any way that we can. And so, in those, that's not our real self then. And so that can be driving our car. And so what's happening as an adult, these things that really were there and they served a purpose for us as children because we needed them. We didn't know how to cope with life in a more sophisticated way. But as an adult, it just doesn't work. It's like having a 6-year old in the driver's seat of our car, and that's not a very reliable driver. And so we're going to be talking about this, not to stay stuck, but actually to identify it so we can move forward and be the reliable driver and be the one, the real us.
Yeah, and life is so much easier that way. I mean, that's the reason we're doing this. We want life to feel easier for all of us. And once we get really clear on what's going on and all these survival strategies, which we develop because we don't want to get kicked out of the tribe, the house, whatever it is, we want to be safe. It's also based on safety. And so if
And
the
typically,
real
let me just
you,
say this. When we're talking about safety, it could be physical safety, but most of the time we're talking about like just that psychological safety of what it feels like inside of us.
yeah,
That,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, so anyway, so if the real you is driving the car, and sometimes we all experience that. I mean, you've experienced that, right?
yeah. At times, and then
Yeah,
times when that has not been the case.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
So we don't necessarily want our 6-year-old driving the car when we're 50 or whatever. That doesn't really serve us. But right, if you feel like you are really living authentically, then that's smooth sailing, and that's great. Keep doing it. But if some things are not working as well as you want, if you feel yourself maybe hiding, right, or being or choosing to be smaller, or just hedging, or not going out and doing a podcast when you've been talking about it for a year, whatever it is, right? We
yes,
want to identify what's going on in that driver's seat. What's that limited fear-based part that really has been trying to keep us safe? And we identified some that we have
yeah.
that
Let's break
we've
down some of the.
experienced.
All right, yeah, we're going to talk over each other all the time. Let's break down some of the examples, or some that we've identified, and how they kind of play out in our lives, so that we can all go, oh yeah, yeah, I've got that part, and then we can be aware of it, and maybe move from it in a healthy way.
Yeah, and you may resonate with some of these. You might resonate with all of these. It doesn't
Pick
really
me.
matter. It's just pick me. I know, pick me, pick me. So it doesn't really matter wherever you
Yeah,
are. It
yeah,
just listen as we talk about this to, hey, yeah, oh, wait, I can relate to that.
yeah,
And one of them I wanted to start with is the achiever, because I've been so guilty of that. Is this idea that we need to find success, meet certain goals, do certain things in order to have more worth. And, our whole society is about that. Don't you think? Like, just like do something, accomplish something, and then accomplish again. And then you accomplish, if you're looking for your worth outside of you, which I have certainly done. I know you have to, we've all done, then it becomes this thing, this cycle of, okay, I got that. and then that's fun for a minute. And there's like, okay, what else do I have to get? It's just always chasing, always chasing. Like our
And
worth is this commodity to be earned.
mhm. Yeah. And I think that what you find is when it comes from that neediness place, it never is satisfying. I mean, it is like you said for a minute, but then it's like you need the next one and the
Yeah, it's
next
like a
one.
hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found,
And
like, for me, with clients, I would always talk about this idea that worth is like, I equate it to like a canister in the center of our bodies. Like, we are born with all the worth we will ever get. Like, you can't earn it. You can't get more. You cannot get more. So why are we chasing it for more? And so if that's happening, if that's the driver, then we're looking always for that hit of achievement, of success. And we keep chasing it because we think it's going to make us feel okay. But over the long run, it just doesn't. It's not sustainable. So if that's driving, it's worth looking at.
and I think the longer you live, the more you know that's the case because you've at some point you've achieved some different things and then you realize what I keep needing
I
to
keep
achieve
needing it.
something else. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you start realizing, yeah, that's not going to be the answer long
Hey,
term.
hey,
Yeah.
we got to say this too. We are
Yeah.
all for achievement. Like,
Yeah.
achieve, go out there and do the big things you want to do. This is not about living a small life at all. This is about living your biggest, boldest, badassest life, you know, but, but let's see, like, how are we doing that? Are we doing it because we need that thing we need to fill up? Or are we doing that because, oh, that would be fun? Hey, I want
Yeah.
to do that. That would be fun. And being present in the process on the journey, making that the important part of that kind of a success or achievement equation.
Yeah. Because, like, and like you said, because when the achievement comes from that authentic place and from our true desire to move forward in a way that is great for us and maybe and also contributes to others, then that achievement is that natural outcome and it's not from a needy place. So,
Yeah,
so
and you
there is
and you
that
feel it.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Hmm.
feel it. You feel it
Yeah.
from people who are doing that. Like, it
Yeah.
just feels like, oh yeah, okay, this is what they're supposed to be doing, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it flows.
Yeah. All right. I think the second one we were going to talk about is the protector, which I'm very well acquainted with because the way the protector works is it is all about control and perfectionism. And for me, the way that's shown up is that I think of it like a wall that you build of perfection, and it helps you feel safe because, like I said, we have these parts inside of us that don't feel good enough or whatever it might be, and so we think, well, if I can just control everything, if I can perfect everything, if everything has this nice facade, um, then I won't get hurt. But that wall goes up. It does keep you safe. But what happens is your authentic self is like locked in behind it. And so for me, and I can say this has been a ongoing issue for me, is working to let that authentic self out, and the only way to do that is you got to like break down the wall. You have to have some cracks in that wall or it can't come out. And that's hard because for me, like I said, I built that perfectionism, that control was a way to stay safe. It
Hey,
was a
you're
way
good
not.
at it. You're
Yeah,
good
yeah, i
at
got
it.
i got good
You
at
got
it.
really good at
But
it.
it comes from a fear of being rejected or being,
Yeah.
you don't want to be hurt. And so that could be driving your life. And and it can work for a while, but then after a while you start feeling like this is all good, but it takes a lot of energy and the real me isn't getting to like live. And so after a while these things start to just, for me, it just wears on you. It becomes exhausting. And that's one that like I said, I've had to work through and I still do.
I think that's part of the interesting part about starting this podcast for us
Yeah.
is being open and vulnerable and real, right?
Yeah.
Because, oh, like, how do we just like be relaxed and be real, and that's something we're going to learn along the way too.
Mhm.
But it's deciding, hey, I got to come from a real place because nobody wants, nobody really wants the other just isn't very accessible.
Right.
I'm not picking on you.
No, no, it's not. And it's hard. You're not living the true life that I think we each come into this earth with special gifts and talents, and it feeds us when we're living from that place, and it contributes to others when we're living from our authentic place. And when we're not, I think we know it and it feels flat and it feels empty.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why this is so important. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah.
both already talking about, yeah, how these things feel empty. They leave us
Yeah.
on empty. They don't
Yeah.
fill us up.
Yeah.
The next one we want to bring up, and this one might resonate, is that inner critic, the part of us that's saying, I'm not enough. Why did you do that? It's that harsh voice, right? That we might have learned from a parent or we just might have picked up. So, gosh, and I think women especially are so hard on ourselves. We can be so hard on ourselves. And it's sad really, because, and I think about being a younger, like being young, being like in your 20s or whatever. And I remember how hard I was on my body then, and how, and now you get, you're older and you're like, oh, wow, why wasn't I really, really appreciating that then,
Would have that body again, right?
boy, that body again. But we are taught somehow, and I don't know how it happens, but we really learn to be hard on ourselves. And that inner critic it's like a learned voice. It's not it's not the truth. We're so used to just believing that, oh, I'm bad at this, or I'm not smart, or I'm embarrass myself, or just think about all the things that can come up constantly. And we believe they're true because we've heard them so many times. And part of this is that if that's in the driver's seat, especially, we want to question it and go, is that really true? Am I really too fat? Am I really unlovable? Am I really a dum dum? Am I really, you know what I mean? There's just terrible things you would never say to another person. And
That
the
you
thing
say to
is,
yourself. Yeah.
that you say to yourself. And it's, you may not, but if you're listening, if you do.
I think
And that idea of going, oh, wait, that may not be true. Just questioning it. Is it true that I'm all these things? Maybe not.
and identifying that the critic, the whole point of it is it's like, well, I'm going to criticize you so you will perfect, so
Oh
you'll do that
God.
better, and then maybe it won't be painful. I mean, all of these are trying to serve us in some way. It's like, if you'll just get your act together, then we'll be in
Yeah,
good
just
shape.
get it
Yeah.
together. How many
Yeah.
times heard that? I just got to get my life together. And it's like, your
Yeah.
life's already together. You're here. It's
Yeah.
okay. The other one, let me say this too, is the I'm not good enough. I might have said that already, but I'm not good enough. And I think that's with everything. I face that with my writing. I face that with whatever, that voice. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And it's just such a waste of space. It's just a waste, because it slows us down. It keeps us from living as brightly as we want to live.
Yeah. And like you were saying, is that all of these take a tremendous amount of energy, and
Ugh.
because and when we're working with the perfectionist, the critic, the achiever, we're spending all this time and energy, just trying to kind of make ourselves okay,
Yeah.
instead of just like getting on with it, getting on with
Yeah.
what we really want to do with life. Yeah.
And you know what else it is? It's because we
Yeah.
think somebody else has the answers. Remember, we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier, the
Yeah.
real you have the answers, but
Mhm.
we're looking outside of us for approval or some kind of answer, right? Am
Yeah.
I okay? Am I okay? And that is, you are okay. We are all okay. We are all enough.
Which it leads us perfectly into the next one we're going to talk about, which is the pleaser, because that's all about giving your power to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I am a classic example of a great pleaser. I'm the third child. I'm the youngest, and I think I came into the family with, and my you kind of look around, or I did. I looked at my sisters. I looked at everything. I thought, okay, how am I going to make sure that I don't do any of the crap that they did, and how am I going to please my parents? How am I going to be the peacemaker? I played that role. And I continue, that's one, again, I have to continue to find, myself, like, am I pleasing in this situation? And something really funny about that is, if you're a pleaser, have you ever found that you end up in a situation where you've been kind of pleasing one person in one way and another person in another way, and then you end up, when you're in some place with both of them, and you're like, oh crap, which person am I going to be? How am I going to please both these people when I do it in different ways? And that's a big, sign that you're not being authentic, because you're like, oh, well, if I'm needing to be, this person for this be this way for this
Yeah.
person or that way for that person, then I'm not really being me.
Well,
And
think about it. Let me
yeah,
just say too, if you're, yeah, you can recognize this easily when you are with exactly the two
yeah.
different people in the same room, or just that idea that
It's like,
you
wait, I got to interrupt you. It's like in that moment, you're like, abort, abort.
abort,
Get
get
me
out
out
of
of
here,
here. What am I going to
separate.
do? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
But also, yeah, no, that idea that like when you realize, when you think about, well, what am I going to say? What
Yeah.
am I going to say? Or, oh, did I just say the wrong thing? You know,
Mhm.
how many times did that happen? Oh, I need to backtrack and be sure they're okay with that, instead of,
Mhm.
oh, I just said it. I just said it.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Even if people are uncomfortable, it's
Yeah.
even if I'm uncomfortable, it's okay. Yeah. It's I think, yeah, pleaser. Check. Check
Yeah.
on the pleaser. Cause we all got that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not being authentic, and you realize that you're missing out on real relationships with people when you don't really let them see you and know you, because you're so interested in reading the room and trying to
Yeah.
figure out what everybody in the room needs from you. And so
Oh
what
my
are you
God.
bringing? And,
Yeah, you're not bringing
that's been
anything at
me.
that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Exactly. And I think we all can relate to that.
Yeah.
And
And
the last, go ahead, sorry.
good. I was just going to say also, just one of the things I do want to mention is this is all on a spectrum. So it's not like you're going to wake up one day and be 100% authentic and never fall back into any of these, right? That'd be nice,
That's
but you're going to, different people, different situations. It's going to bring this back up. And like 2 hours later, go, crap, I did that again.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's certain
and
people, wait, there's certain
oh,
people that it's easy to be authentic with, right?
oh yeah.
But then there's certain, like for me, I know like kind of classic authority figures,
Hmm.
like that is who I would need to please, because
Hmm.
be okay with me, because that was a survival strategy, right? Because we have
Yeah.
we have a father who was a Marine, and he
Yeah.
could be tough sometimes. And so I listen if somebody's voice is deep or a little louder, and that would make me want to please them. So we have these triggers too. Whereas I don't need to please you at all because I'm your big sister,
Right. Yeah. You're
and you
like, you
need
don't care. Yeah.
you
And
know,
I
and
do
you
need to
need
please
it.
you.
Yeah, you need to please me. No,
You
I'm
know what?
teasing.
I don't think you're that person in my life, but yeah, there are other people for sure.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, we all
Yeah.
know that there are
Yeah.
different people who we need to please, and just to identify it is worthwhile.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So what's the last one?
The last one is
Mhm.
the avoider, the number, pick me. As the oldest as the oldest of three sisters, um, that part of us that really gets overwhelmed by emotions. It's just like they're too much. So instead of dealing with those emotions, I mean, it's taken me a lifetime to learn how to deal with emotions. We turn to those numbing mechanisms, and they can be things like busyness, or they can be things like drinking or eating a carton of ice cream or whatever it may be. I think we all have those things like that comfort. Like, let me just do that. I need to eat this feeling away, or I need to drink this feeling away, or whatever it is. And it's just because we're afraid of our feelings, and we
Yeah.
don't know what to do with them, and probably because they weren't acceptable at one point. Like when you're a kid, it's not so acceptable to be angry. So a lot of times be like, you can't be angry, don't be angry, or people might get angry at you for being angry. Whatever it is, I think it comes from a place where you don't really feel a full access to all of your emotions. And when we're living deliberately, and that's something we're going to talk about a lot, that we get all the emotions belong and have space here. And when they don't, or when we don't think they do, we sometimes will numb, avoid, do all the things that we at some point learn to do. Usually by teenagers, we kind of learn
Yeah.
certain coping mechanisms.
Yeah, and ways to numb out. And one of the ways that most everyone can do it now is just through their
Oh,
phones, right? You see people all the
phone, yeah.
time just scrolling, just numbing out. And there's nothing, wrong necessarily. It's not like it's a bad thing, but it's like, let's investigate. Let's look under and find out, like, am I doing this because I'm feeling really uncomfortable and this just helps soothe the pain? Not that it, again, not that that is wrong. It's just that we don't want to we don't want to just continue to not deal with maybe what's under the hood. Yeah, so how do we reclaim the driver's seat? So we've gone over all this and we're like, oh gosh, are we just doomed? No. But how do we get it back? How do we get our real self then back in the driver's seat? Or what's the first step to doing that?
I think we have to be aware. And just,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing today. Just kind of saying, this is the foundation for your deliberate life, right? Who's driving? Like, just be aware, get real with yourself about the parts of yourself that are fear-based. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. We all have them. I mean, they really came to us honestly through these survival strategies that we came up with as kids, whether they really work or not, but we want to reclaim, as we reclaim the driver's seat, ask the question, does it feel good? Does this action feel good? Does it feel good being me? Just kind of getting back in touch with who you are.
And that's what I think, like I was mentioning, if I've been somewhere and like at a party or something, and I come home and I go, crap, I was doing it. I was perfecting. I was pleasing or whatever, and not and not giving myself a hard time, but just naming it, being like, okay, that's great awareness because now I recognize when I'm in certain situations, I'm more likely to
Yeah.
let that fear based part come out. And okay, so and maybe then think about what do I really want to be? Where do I want to be living from? And just that awareness is key. And then being gentle with ourselves, being gentle with that part of us, knowing that it's there for a purpose. It is there. It's come up because it's trying to keep us safe in some way. It's trying to protect us in some way, and it's not the enemy. And we want to be gentle with it, and
Yeah. I
not just
have
make it
there's
bad.
so
Yeah,
much about compassion, so much
yeah,
about just self-compassion, and
yeah,
I'm going to say self-love, self-approval, all that stuff. And gosh, we're going to be talking about that.
yeah. Well, and the adage, what you resist persists. So it starts with awareness and
Yeah.
being gentle with it. So
And
yeah.
ask yourself,
Mhm.
does the fearful, the fear-based self, that limiting self, that if it's driving the car, is it really helping you as an adult? Because that's what we said before. Like, if the 6-year-old is driving your car when you're 50, that is probably not like, who would do that? You would not consciously do that. You don't, you look at a 6-year-old and say, no, get in the back seat with an ice cream cone. You don't need to be driving. But that happens a lot.
Yeah.
We really, in certain areas of our lives, we just don't have consciousness there. We don't have awareness. And so we're just working out of habits from a long time ago. So just pay attention to who's driving as you figure all this stuff out.
And as you're going through it, you can ask the question, well, what would it feel like if this part weren't driving? What would it feel like if I were really being the authentic me? And just like maybe open the door a little bit and say, like, come on out, join me because I want to get to know you. What is that? What would that be like? And how would it feel? And so much of to answer that, so much of it is it would start to feel like a yes, like
Oh yeah.
that aliveness. Yeah,
Life feels like a
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
right? Life feels like, oh, I'm so excited to wake up every day. I just,
yeah.
I may not know what's going to happen, but something good is going to happen. And part of this whole process is about reprogramming our brains so that
Mhm.
we're not working off of that old programming from back then.
Yeah. And we have so many things we're going to be talking about. We can't get them all in one episode. So, like we said, the foundation of this one is just that awareness of who is in the driver's seat, and start working with that. Just becoming aware and gently identifying and walking through it that way.
And let me end too by saying that we have a lot of resistance to being the real us. I mean, we've been talked out of it for years and years and years. And sometimes when we really, speak honestly, speak truthfully, don't hedge, don't hide, it can be uncomfortable, and that's okay. Like, right now, just know it can be uncomfortable, but we said, what did we were talking about the other day, something about, like, we will do anything to avoid feelings, hard feelings, right? Because we
Yeah.
think feelings might just kill us.
Hmm.
They actually won't, but sometimes it
Yeah.
feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and we, like you said, we've convinced ourselves that we'll do anything not to feel them. So this is normal and part of the process, and it's like moving through them is the only way. Though we
Yeah,
can't just
you can't
continue.
go
We can't
around.
keep running. We can't keep running. Yeah,
We can't outrun them. We have to go through
yeah,
them.
yeah,
But
yeah.
okay, so just to wrap this up, I want to say the reason that we wanted to start this our first episode with this idea of building a strong foundation for your deliberate life is because you want a reliable driver in the driver's seat. You want that part of you that you can trust to take you where you want to go. So that's why, I mean, we want to say every time, that's why it's worth discovering. And you had said, what should people do? What could they do right now? And I'm going to say, oh, no homework. I say no homework, but you say
Oh
sometimes
no,
a little homework.
no, I said you could journal about this, but
You
you
could
know,
journal,
you
but
could
you
journal
don't
about
have
it and
to.
become aware about it, but you don't have to. Yeah, but the idea is, you know, we think it's so important. You know, you get to a certain age and you're like, okay, I got to get on with my life and live what I am really here to live.
I
So,
don't need to care what anybody else thinks. And that's can be harder said than
yeah,
done, but it
yeah,
really is the goal.
yeah. All right, so let's wrap it up and tell people where to find us and all of that stuff that you
Oh
know.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. I have to do this. Okay, great. So please, I'm going to say first off, please subscribe. Please subscribe to us at YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. Why do you need to subscribe? I have no idea, but I watch enough podcasts to know it's important. So please do that today. We're also at the Aligned, no, not the Aligned Artists. That's not right. The deliberatelife.us. That's where you can find the website. You can sign up for our mailing list. It's deliberatelife.us. We also are on Facebook at the Deliberate Life Show, Instagram, and TikTok.
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 Hey, and thank you for joining us and for staying with us to the bitter end. We are really excited to be here, and it's been a lot of fun. Dana, I've enjoyed it.
I have two, and I wanted to say we will be here every week. We'll have new episodes every Tuesday. So we look forward to coming back, and we hope you'll join us.
Yeah, everybody have a great week.
All right,
Bye,
bye.
Danes.